Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's transit report for January 8th. I got some exciting things going on out there in the neutrino world this week, and I look forward to diving into it. Before I get started, I do always like to share, I think it's helpful whenever we're looking at this information to really put ourselves in our G center, the place of our magnetic monopole. The neutrino energy of the week, I think of it like the ocean that we are swimming in. We get to experience ourselves within the midst of that. So just helpful to place ourselves from that position, I think. It's also a wonderful opportunity to learn about particular gates that you may not have spent a lot of time with, to see what the energy at play is. So first thing to mention is that we've had a nodal shift this morning, just a few hours ago. And I'm going to go a little further on a deep dive into that today. But I always like to start with the Sun-Earth configuration. And then also for Monday, I'm going to go through all of the planets, where they are, what their current status is, and then we'll go through the aspects day by day. So to start with the Sun, we've been in gate 54 for a few days now, and it actually shifted into line 4 just a few minutes ago, which is a very interesting, curious, mystical line. So we are in the root center. Gate 54, the gate of ambition and drive in the channel of transformation. Now, line 4 is called the line of enlightenment and endarkenment. And it's always a curious line, I think, when we first meet this particular gate, because it is in a tribal channel. It is in part of our material stream of tribal transformation, improving, leveling up. But yet it talks to this mystical. Ra called it the most mystical line in the body graph. And I think that's so beautiful because it speaks to the mystical possibility within the mundane world, through just doing what we do, but recognizing that we are spirit beings, spirit consciousness, having a human life. And that's really what this line speaks to. Through the mundane, we can actually experience self-reflected consciousness. It's also in the line 4, which is the bottom line of the upper trigram. And the idea that it's through our externalization of this ambition that we can experience this mysticism, the possibility of that. And that puts the Earth in gate 53 down in Cancer, this drive to start something new. It's in the channel of maturation, a design of balanced development. Now, what happens here every year at this time of year, as we're approaching the Rave New Year, which is going to take place on January 22nd, and within the next week, I will be doing a specific Rave New Year report, so I'll have that posted in a few days. But just want to bring attention to that in these weeks leading up to the Rave New Year, every year, our root center really gets what I like to think of as like a software update. First off, the sun goes through gate 10, and this is where we have in the northern hemisphere the winter solstice, and for the southern hemisphere we have the summer solstice. But we have this cardinal point in the wheel, and I think of gate 10 as the lead gate or the master gate to the entire root center, because as the sun moves forward, it'll go through gate 58, which also puts the Earth in gate 52. And then last week, the sun went through gate 38, which puts the Earth in gate 39. Now we're currently in gate 54, which puts the Earth in gate 53. Then we take this curious jump up to gate 61, the pressure of inner truth, and then we go back to the root center. We go back to gate 60, and then 41, where we have the Rave New Year, and then gate 19. So between when the sun goes into gate 58 and when it goes through gate 19, we actually get activated through the sun and a couple of the Earth activations, the entire root center. And so we can often feel this buildup of pressure as we approach the Rave New Year. So it's a wonderful time to evaluate. I find it a great time to contemplate the past year. What have I experienced? Where am I at? Where am I going? And what are my intentions for this Rave New Year on January 22nd? And so I mention all that because that'll sort of be the backdrop to all of the transits that are in place this week as we approach the Rave New Year. And then a further backdrop beyond that is that we're approaching 2027, and we're not very far away from that either. And so as I observe these patterns week to week and day to day, that's really what's in the back of my mind. Where are we going with this incredible period, if you will, in the human race? This will be one of the greatest mutations in the history of mankind, and we're fast approaching that. And so when we look at these patterns, we can see part of these messages coming through of what that may allude to as we go through this transformation and mutation. So as we go through the chart, so let's take a look here again at each one of these. Now we have the moon over here in gate 5 in Sagittarius, bringing with it the emotional drive of our highest ideals. This Sagittarius, I find it such a fun sign, the optimism, what else is possible, the higher mind philosophy. So it'll finish up Sagittarius. It's going to transit all the way through all of the gates in Capricorn and Aquarius, and we'll get all the way down to Pisces, gate 37, at the close of this week next Sunday. I'll come back to the nodes, since that's one of the highlights for today. We still have Pluto in gate 60, line 4. It's been here for a very long time in the channel of mutation. It's at a very critical point right now, because line 4 of gate 60 is actually the line of transition between Capricorn and Aquarius. Now, Pluto is going to move into Aquarius on January 20th in the evening, just 2 days prior to the Rave New Year, and it will be conjunct the sun at that time. So again, this is one of those pressures that I think is so much part of the larger global picture right now. This pressure to mutate. The gate of acceptance, and I recall the tagline of gate 60 is the acceptance of limitations is the first step in transcendence. And Pluto, I also find it to really resonate with its location in gate 60. Pluto is the planet of death, rebirth, and transformation. And here in the channel of mutation, it really, again, resonates the vibrational quality of what's going on right there. So I think we're all being under pressure to accept whatever we perceive to be our greatest limitation and how we are going to move through that. A particularly big picture as we move into the Rave New Year. Now, the other thing that's going to happen here is that it'll move into Aquarius on January 20th, but then later this, and shortly, it'll turn retrograde again, right? And it's going to go back into Capricorn. Mostly through the summer. It's going to stop and station on line 4 again for a third time in this cycle. And then it will finally move forward and move into Aquarius for good in November. So it's going to be in this area of the chart for quite a while, but it's putting particular emphasis on line 4, which is called the line of resourcefulness. And I think that again is a very helpful contemplation, helpful tip for us to think about how are we being resourceful within our own individuality. I will continue to come back to this theme of individuality because it's been such a reoccurring theme in these transit forecasts for months now. We have had so many gates from individual circuit group activated. And when I give my Rave New Year report, you'll hear that again, because 9 out of 13 activations will be in individual circuitry for the Rave New Year. And the only channel defined in the transit field is going to be the channel of the perfected form, 57 and 10. So again, that's going to be a big part of the theme. And I think, again, just using that idea of how are we being resourceful within our network to support our own transformation and mutation. Neptune's still in gate 36, line 3. My goodness, it's been here a long time. So it's not moving anywhere. It's not moving into a different line this week. It's still in the line of transition, bringing its Neptunian imagination, illusion, creativity to this idea of the end of the darkening of the light. We'll see if that's the case on the global scale. We still are facing such world drama and trauma right now, but we can certainly see the unlimited nature of crisis in Gate 36. That is the backdrop, again, of what we're doing here, which I think is the big question as we look towards the rave new year, this question of who am I? Why am I alive right now? And what is my role amidst all of this happening out in the world right now? It's a very important topic for contemplation. Uranus is the only outer planet that is still moving retrograde in Taurus. It also has stationed, in other words, it is stopping in 23 line 1. So again, bringing this tremendous influence to us. Now, I've mentioned this before, but just to remember that Uranus as a planet, which is the planet of creativity, unusualness, suddenness, it really can just come out of nowhere, really resonates with the whole individual circuit group as well, right? It really just has a similar thematic, a similar vibration. And here it is stationing in the foundation line of the unique creative voice in the channel of individuality. So Uranus is bringing this energy here where we have the opportunity to reflect on what is my voice right now? What is the foundation? What am I secure about? What do I feel insecure about? Where am I at and where am I going? And Uranus providing its support in 23 line 1 to contemplate that. Saturn is also, has been moving forward now. It did its retrograde movement in gate 55, the gate of abundance, individual, emotional, spirit. It's moving forward, however, very slowly as it's still picking up speed. So it'll be in line 5 for the entire week. Also in individual circuitry. I've been talking about this in terms of my contemplation of spiritual equanimity or equilibrium, finding emotional stability within the cyclical nature of the solar plexus and life itself. Having Saturn, the planet of structure, discipline, hard work, if you will, in the sign of Pisces, ruled by Neptune, this watery, mutable world where imagination and creativity are limitless. Saturn bringing its structure to that sign, to me, has been like a handrail, providing structural support to experience and observe and work with our idea of what is my personal abundance. How do I feel full with emotional spirit, knowing that it changes dramatically, right? It is not a static thing, but it's there for us to work with that. I really feel like Saturn has been really a very supportive planet in its role in gate 55. And of course, it's still there for some time to go. We have Jupiter turned forward at the end of December, so just over a week ago, in gate 27, line 4, the gate of caring, and I think Jupiter bringing its expansiveness. Wherever we see Jupiter in the chart, it expands, bringing this expansive nature to the gate of caring. So as we are thinking about and working with our own idea of who am I, what is my individual nature, what is my role, my incarnation cross in the world, in today's world. Jupiter here in gate 27 in Taurus, I think has been providing great support to observe that. Where am I spending my energy caring? Not only for self-care, which is tremendously helpful right now, but also how am I caring for others? Right? How am I expending my energy available for others to care for them in this line 4, the line of friends, family, brotherhood, sisterhood, externalization? How are we using that energy to care for others? Mars, also in Capricorn, has moved into gate 10. It's in line 6 today, but that's part of what's bringing us the channel of the perfected form. Now, gate 10, as I was mentioning earlier with the sun, which passed through there a few weeks ago, all of this area of our chart is getting quite a workout from all of these planets because we had the sun go through all those gates. Now we have Mars. And last week, I also talked about Mercury because it did its retrograde motion. So Mercury, which is in gate 11, the gate of ideas right now, is doing its third pass. It entered its shadow in gate 26, line 6. It moved forward all the way to gate 54, I'm sorry, gate 58, line 5. Then it went retrograde, so it did its second pass back through gate 58, gate 10, gate 11, all the way to gate 26, line 6. It turned forward on January 1st, and now it's moving its third time across these gates. So when we think about Mercury in gate 11, with this idea of what is our highest ideals, this optimistic, I often think of gate 11 as the most archetypal gate of Sagittarius. Based on our past experiences, what is our vision? What is our highest ideals about what is possible for us, for ourselves, and those we love? Now it'll do the same. It'll pass through gate 10 for the third time, and then finally gate 58, and will leave its shadow in gate 58, line 5. So if you have any of these gates, or if these form an electromagnet, if they're a bridging gate, possibly, they're really super highlighted again, because the sun went through, Mars went through, Mercury's doing its third pass, and also, of course, the moon this week will be moving through those gates. And then finally, bringing up the rear of this chain of planets will be Venus. And Venus will be in gate 10 for the Rave New Year, which will be bringing us the perfected form.